Hey family, here we are, another era, or another issue of Random Rants. Here we go. I want to talk a little bit about, I don't even know how I'm going to call this, but we'll just call it, what comes to mind is pets, what we call like dogs and cats. Let's just keep it simple. Dogs and cats and irresponsible people that call themselves the owners of these dogs and cats. So I'll just share with you an example of my own personal experience. And I hope that that illustrates what I'm trying to convey. So here we go. So there's dogs, right? Where did they come from? Well, they've been with us for many thousands of years. They're very long time domesticated to live compatibly with the human being. Okay, now having said that, was about, I want to say they did this in Europe. I could be wrong, but I know they started doing this in Europe back several hundred years ago. They would take this dog and breed it with that dog that those two dogs would normally never like. It's not a natural, let me just say that the offspring of this union of these dogs would not normally occur in nature. That's the best way I can say it. So, but like, let's say for instance, you have where did the German Shepherd come from? Well, just what it says. It's a shepherd it's a dog that works alongside the shepherd in Germany. So he's going to be bred to be able to run long distances, and his purpose is to chase down and corral animals like, I don't know, cows or sheep or I don't know, whatever. So my neighbor has a German Shepherd, and the German Shepherd goes crazy. His name is Coco. So Coco goes absolutely nuts anytime anything really that moves. It could be a motorcycle, it could be a car, a truck, but especially if it's cows or horses or, he'll run after them and bark and just go crazy, and he'll get super close to the animal because his DNA code is telling him that my job is to get this animal to move in the direction that I want it to. But in reality, the animal moves in whatever direction that he wants to because he's not part of the shepherd's flock. So he's not going to pay attention to Coco. In fact, he'll probably just get scared enough by Coco that eventually he reaches out in retaliation to defend himself, and that usually involves a good kick and some very serious injuries that follow. So this just happens again and again and again, right? And so eventually my neighbor locked him up and he keeps Coco over there locked up all the time now. But anyway, and what he said to me was, I said, I don't see Coco anymore. Why is he locked up? And he said, because he doesn't listen. Meaning he doesn't listen when Coco doesn't listen when Memo screams at him and tells him not to chase the cows and the horses and trucks and whatever. But it's in his blood to do that. So it's going to take a little bit more than one form of post-infringement negative feedback. It's going to take more effort to ask the animal to refrain from chasing after the cows or the horses or whatever it may be. So you got to spend some time with them. You got to reinforce him when he does good too. You can't just like scream at him. It's like a kid. Like a kid's not going to learn anything if you just yell at him all the time. You want to reinforce good behavior. So of course, I don't really know anybody that likes to take full responsibility for their pets and spend the appropriate amount of time with them to train them and teach them. And so now it becomes Coco's fault, and he doesn't listen, and so therefore we're gonna lock him up all the time. So poor guy, poor Coco. But now another example is dogs that just breed on their own naturally, what we would call street dogs here in Mexico, and they're the closest thing to a real dog, because they're natural selection. They haven't been bred to the point where they're a little slow. These or in some cases they're very slow. In some cases they have all kinds of, think about the pug. He has all kinds of breathing problems because he's been designed to have his face smashed, and he can't get the air into his nasal cavity to breathe properly. Another example would be right across the street. I have another neighbor, likewise. I don't want to call any names. I'll just say likewise, very low level of common sense being applied here. But he has chosen to bring 2 or 3 now, is it? No, 4. I don't know how many dogs. But one of them is what they call a Chihuahua, and the other 3 are called miniature schnauzers. So all of these dogs are inbred. All of them are incredibly stupid. They have all kinds of special issues in their body and their mind and their emotions and their behavior because of this unnatural breeding. Miniature Dachshunds, okay, so first of all, the Chihuahua is considered the Mexican version of the first experimentation with the unnatural breeding, or what I like to call GMO dogs. They're not real dogs, but they're just some perverted version of it according to humans who want to pretend that they can be God, and, don't get me started. So, so they all, if you meet these kinds of dogs, they'll I'm not going to just classify all Chihuahuas, because I've met a lot of them that are, tolerable. But for the most part, they can be kind of unpredictable and moody and, I don't know, just kind of snappy and just not friendly, kind of antisocial, where other dogs, they're obviously antisocial to the point where it's I see a normal dog and I'm just this little miniature GMO oversized rat. So I'm therefore afraid of all the other dogs. And that never goes down good for social interactions, especially when you're a dog. Anyhow, and now it's the first, the Chihuahua I refer to the Chihuahua, it's as far as GMO dogs are concerned, I would say that it's like the Paris Hilton purse dog starter kit down here in Mexico. And of course they have other ones now too. They have pugs, and I don't even know all the names of all these GMO dogs, but they're all purse size, and afraid of their own shadow, and just whatever. They're not really dogs. But anyway, going back to the Dachshunds, the miniature Dachshunds, they were designed by humans, the GMO, as a GMO dog, to chase down and kill badgers. Now, if you don't know what a badger is, I suggest you go have a look online, and you can find some clips and video footage and some information about badgers. It's like the most ferocious animal on the planet. And these dogs were bred to go after these most ferocious animals and kill them. So as far as I can see, the miniature Schnauzer is the most ferocious and fearless and bravo and just doesn't give a fuck. He's gonna, go after you. So it's unnaturally aggressive dog, okay? And he brings 3 of them into the forest, where they immediately commence to wiping out all of the forest life around them within probably a couple hundred meters in all directions. Snakes, anything that moves, lizards, chameleons, birds. They even go after, they even killed a bird one day right in front of me. They even go after like Tejans and stuff like that. Tejan would be like a Mexican version of a badger. Pretty ferocious animal kind of thing. And they'll even go after them. And they just basically wipe out the ecological, everything in the forest that's endemic to the forest. They just destroy it, right? But then they also come outside of their own territory. As I mentioned, these dogs are unnaturally aggressive. They come outside of their own territory and to interact with the dogs over here at my house, which are street dogs, and they're very well trained and they are not unnaturally aggressive. And I spend time with them and I train them, and they know if I see them, I literally tell them this. I said, if you don't want to live according to the natural, the non-aggression principle, then you're not welcome here. And if I catch you being aggressive, acting, with aggression towards somebody else that's not like another dog that's not, or a person, yeah, it doesn't matter. But aggression that is not warranted in self-defense, then you will get my foot up your ass. And they all know that. So they're very careful not to, they're not the offenders. But these Dachshunds are, these little miniature Dachshunds, they come over. I think they're Dachshunds, or I can't remember the name. I think it's like a hot dog. Those little short, they got like legs this tall. They're GMO dogs. They're like purse dogs, but they're super fucking aggressive. I mean, it's literally, I know this sounds funny because it's a very small dog, but it's literally the most aggressive dog ever known to man. It puts pit bulls, and people think pit bulls and chows and stuff are aggressive. Not even close. Not even close. Anyway, so his dogs come over here and attack the dogs that I have at my space. And when my dogs defend themselves against this active aggression, then they bite back. So like my dogs each one of them will have 1 or 2 or more bites on them from the neighbor's dog. And the neighbor's dog gets 1 bite, maybe one of the 3 dogs that comes over gets bit 1 time and goes running back, yiping back to his own properties, crying about how he got bit. And so then he sends me a message and tells me to keep my dogs in control, right? And I'm like, I just, after 3 years of this nonsense, I finally told him straight up. I said, you are the one with the unnaturally aggressive GMO dogs who do not stay inside their territory. They're murdering all the endemic species of this forest, and they are acting aggressively towards my dogs. So you keep your dogs on your property and stop blaming me. This is so typical. I even told him this too, which went right over his fucking head because he's dumb as a box of rocks. Most of the people around here just fucking completely clueless. I'm sorry. I just have to be honest about that. But I told him, I said, it is not appropriate. And I realize it's very illustrative of the times that we're in, of this Kali Yuga, where you've got this out of control feminine with no fucking boundaries, and she's just running hell west and crooked and dragging everybody through the hedge backwards. And she's reaching out and punching and slapping and scratching and kicking and clawing and verbally abusing the man until one day he whacks her back just 1 fucking time, and then she goes running, screaming how she's the victim. I told him that too. I said, this is a perfect illustration of that with the dogs. They're little tiny dogs that should keep their ass on their property because they don't really have they don't stand a chance against a real dog who is like 4 times their height, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times their weight, and the jaw, but my dogs aren't going to go after them to hurt them seriously because I trained the dogs not to be aggressive unless it's in self-defense, and then to apply the least amount necessary. They would just do that naturally. That's just what dogs naturally do. No dog naturally goes for the throat the first time. Like, if he does, then there's something wrong with him. He's probably a GMO dog that's been bred to be that way. So anyhow, I just wanted to give that little rant. about dogs, irresponsible humans, and then, you know, with regards to the GMO dogs and the acts of aggression, and, you know, whose fault is that and everything like that. Now, I want to also illustrate some other irresponsible and silly human behavior with regards to, we'll just keep it at dogs. Well, first of all, let me just also mention that cats should never be allowed outside the house, ever, unless you live in the middle of a concrete jungle that's infested with mice and rats. But to bring them into a forest or into a space that has lots of animals living here, cats are predators, they're hunters. That's just what they're going to do. And especially if you feed them, because now they're not going to just be inclined to follow their instinct and go out and hunt, but they're just going to like hunt for the sake of hunting instead of eating what they hunt and then having a full belly, not hunting anymore. So I just wanted to put that out there with regards to cats, because I have a couple of brujas up the street that seem to think it's okay to let the cats free in this beautiful sacred dry forest. And I have personally witnessed the decline of the avian species, the birds. Oh my God, probably 60% decline in the birds, 95% decline in the number of frogs, lizards, chameleons, any kind of other animal that would be susceptible to the cat preying upon it. Anyway, now what was I going to mention about also, and this is with regards to cats and dogs, but another thing that we do as humans, which we don't even think about, is when we take the boys to spay or neuter the dog. I'll just say the dog in this case. When you cut his fucking balls off, that is not spaying and neutering. That is not reproductive care. You're removing a gland from the animal, the testes, which is working. It's a critical piece of the animal's endocrine system. The endocrine system controls every function of the body. It's like the mainframe supercomputer that sends out all the signals and manages the different enzymes and proteins and hormones and everything else that gets secreted into our blood to cause us to, act with discernment and without being too emotionally overcharged, and also it regulates, of course, physical health within the body. So give you some examples of what are the outcomes of not just this method of castration, but also the food that we feed, and of course the petrochemical drugs, the vaccines, and all that shit that we give to the pets. These are destroying the animals. And I'll give you just a few examples. There's around here, there was a couple of dogs that had been had their balls cut off, and then the one dog that was like, how do I say, he wasn't my dog, but he approached me and wanted to hang out at my house, and so he needed to get a vasectomy. So I took him and gave him a vasectomy. And this dog had the shiniest coat, the most brilliant, bright eyes. He was full of energy, the picture of health. He might get 2, possibly 3 ticks on him throughout the entire course of the year. And these dogs are outside all the time. Whereas the other dogs, they have cancerous tumors growing at this juncture here. Their lymph nodes are roughly in the same place as our lymph nodes. So we would have like tumors growing in the lymph node areas, all kinds of autoimmune disorders, arthritis, lethargy, which is another sign that the endocrine system, premature aging, hair loss. I mean, all the like textbook, endocrine system disorders, right? That's just from castrating them. Then they feed them shit, pure, absolute toxic shit. And when I mean shit, even eating shit would be better than feeding your dog Purina dog chow or one of these other name brand. Look into this for yourself, family, if you don't want to believe me. I drove past the Purina dog chow plant, or I don't know if it was just dog chow or whatever, but Purina plant in Colorado. I drove past there twice a week, every week when I lived there. And I could tell you, like, from a mile away approaching to a mile away after, I had to not just put my windows up, but turn off the recirculating air coming from outside and try my best not to, like, not even to smell through my nose, but not to breathe at all, because it was so wicked and foul and dark fucking, wow. I can't tell you, but I'm going to tell you, if hell had a smell, that would be the Purina dog, because it was beyond the smell. There was something really, but this was years, decades ago, right? And I never thought to look into it until, sometime later. But basically it's all, how, like, if you want to refer back to my rant on the microplastics in the clothing, it's all the same kind of actors of the petrochemical industry and all the other toxic industries that are out there that are creating all this hazardous material, or hazmat, and there's nowhere to dispose of it safely. So they put it along with every other fucking thing you can imagine that you would never want to feed to your dog or cat or any other animal. And they mix it into this glob of shit, and they put some flavoring stuff on it to make it smell or have the flavor of some kind of decent food, but it's pure garbage. Pure garbage. Do not take my word for that, family. Check that out for yourself. So we have pure garbage, and then we've got a disrupted endocrine system. And then on top of that, when the animal gets the cancerous tumors or the glaucoma at age 1, or the lymph nodes develop, potentially cancerous tumors at age 2, when the animal has arthritis at 18 months and hip and shoulder displacement at 3 years. I mean, that's what it's from, family. It's because we're fucking these innocent animals up with our stupid ideas about, and I have random, not that I want to pick a fight, I'm just trying to say, in defense of the animals who can't speak up for themselves. And I do have these conversations with the veterinarians, and I try to be as diplomatic as possible about it, but it's the truth. As long as you're pushing these drugs and sticking these vaccines in these animals and castrating them and destroying their endocrine system, all you're doing is creating more problems, which of course your drugs and stuff have the remedy for, right? The answer to everything is a drug. Okay, this is already 23 minutes. I'm going to close this, and my next rant's going to be a follow-up to the animals and the petrochemical industry, and this one I'm going to call, I don't know what I'm going to call it. We'll see. Stay tuned.